Hi there, I'm Michelle the Painter, and this is Paint and Sip at Home. Alright, so today I'm going to be painting cute hungry squirrel, and I'm sipping on some wild berry tea. And if you enjoy this process, I do hope that you like and subscribe to my channel, and that you also check out my Patreon page where you'll find additional painting perks such as this one. So today I did a painting inspired by a photo that was submitted by one of my Patreon members by the name of Lisa Small. I have a benefit for my Patreon members whereby every now and again I'll put a call out for some photos. They submit them, I will select a few of them to turn into YouTube tutorials, and as a thank you I will send the original painting off to whoever submitted the photo. So I hope she likes this one. So if you're interested in learning how you too could submit your photos for me to turn into tutorials, and or learning more about the Patreon membership program where there's a bunch of benefits that you can utilize to enhance your painting skills, I have all of that information down below in the video description. So let's get painting and let's get sipping. Alright, so for my materials today, I'm going to be using a stretched and primed 16 by 20 inch canvas. If you're painting along with me, you could certainly switch up the size, but that's what I'll be using. I'm going to be using acrylic paint today. My colors are titanium white, burnt umber, which I like to call brown, Mars black, burnt sienna, which sometimes I call rust, deep yellow, fire red, and ultramarine blue. And of course you can switch up those colors if you'd like, but that's what I'll be using. For my tools today, I have a white piece of chalk that I'm going to be using for some drawing, and then I have 3 brushes from my personal brush line, which is Michelle the Painter brushes. I have a 3/4 inch wide flat bristle brush, and I have a number 6 and a number 2 round synthetic brushes. And I may refer to these as small, medium, and large as we go through the painting process, or I'll just call them out by their name. If you're painting along with me, you can certainly switch those up, but you'll probably also want to have a cup of water for washing your brushes, as well as a paper towel for drying your brushes. And down below this video, in the video description, I do provide you with a few additional resources that can help you throughout your painting process. One of them is a link to my shop where you could purchase the same exact paint kit that I'm using, from the same size and type of the canvas to the same type of paints and brushes and all the other good stuff in between. You can also purchase from my shop things individually, like the brushes from my brush line. So that's there. There's also a link where you can download a free image of the final painting. So you can print that and use it as visual reference as you go through the painting process. And there's also written step-by-step instructions down there for you as well. And that's all we're going to need today. Alright, so what we're going to do for the first step is we're going to paint a base coat onto the canvas. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush to paint, but I'm going to use my medium number 6 round to pre-mix 2 custom colors. I'm going to call these colors light blue and tan, but they're really a cool gray and a warm gray. But when you see what I'm doing, you'll understand why I'm calling them light blue and tan. So the colors that I'm going to be using in this step are black, white, brown, and blue. So I have pre-mixed my 2 colors on my palette. Whoops, just dropped my paper towel. Hold on a second. On my palette here. So if you look at these side by side, they definitely look to me like light blue and tan. However, if I was to just look at one by itself and the other by itself, they would kind of resemble a cool gray, which would be my light blue, and a warm gray, which would be my tan that I'm going for. I'm kind of over analyzing these colors to tell you, because they are going to be representational of the wood that's going to be in this painting. So I want one side of the wood to look a little bit more warm and one side to look a little cooler, and the wood is gray. So this is how I'm doing it. I'm going to do a warm gray and a cool gray, and which is a tan and a light blue. So I'm going to show you how to pre-mix the light blue one first. So this is it right here. How I achieved this was a whole bunch of white, and then I add a little bit of blue and a little bit of black into it. And then I spin it around. If it's too dark, I can add more white. If it's too light, I can add more of the pigment, which would be the blue and the black. So once you start spinning it, you can see where it's headed, and then you can just adjust it accordingly. I'm thinking that that's pretty good. Maybe a touch more white in my mixture to get it similar to what I had already pre-mixed. That looks pretty good to me. So that'll be my light blue, as I call it out in the future steps of this painting. And then I'm going to wash my mixing tool, and I'm going to create my tan, or my warm gray. So this is my tan color here. How I achieve this is mostly white and brown, and then a little bit of black. So white, brown, and a touch of black. I do want both of these colors, the warm tan and the cool light blue, to be about the same tonal value, which means one of them is not much darker or lighter than the other. So these are the two colors that I'm going for. And then I'll put my mixing tool away. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on the left-hand side of my canvas with my tan color. Pick up the paint with my large brush. I'm going to be painting this side predominantly with the tan color, and then on the other side of my canvas I'll transition a little bit past my halfway point. I'll start transitioning into the light blue or the cool color, but I don't need it to be just an even split. I can even have some of this warmer tone kind of up at the top, as well as maybe down at the bottom. It's kind of like this midsection in through here that is gonna take on the coolest tones of this wood. So I'm just gonna kind of allow for this warm tone to take on the majority of the canvas, and I'm almost about halfway over. The brush stroke doesn't matter either, what direction your brush stroke is going in right now. It doesn't matter, because we're going to be doing all kinds of texture and stuff on top of this, so don't worry about that. So when I get about here, this is where I'm going to pick up my warm tone plus my cool tone, about equal parts on my brush at the same time. And this is where I'm going to start to transition it over into the cooler color. So that was both colors on my brush. Now I can just pick up my cool color on my dirty brush and just get it to kind of intermingle with that warm tone that I had already put on there. And again, it doesn't have to be a perfect blend. It doesn't have to be a perfect brush stroke. We're just going for something that is going to allow us to have a toned canvas that we will be able to, or a ground on the canvas that will allow us to build our wood and our dimensional elements on top of this. So once you've got this step done, we are going to be using, what are we going to use for the next step? I think I want to use my, my drawing utensil for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put this brush away. I'm just going back and forth, just kind of blending this out a little bit. You can put this brush away, take out your drawing utensil, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're gonna do for the next step is we're gonna be drawing an outline for our fence, and we're also gonna be painting in the inside of the fence. So we're gonna use our chalk to draw, our large bristle brush to paint, and our small number 2 round, or at least that's what I'm using, to pre-mix another custom color. So before we get into drawing, I'm gonna pre-mix myself the color that I'm gonna use on that inside of the fence, which is gonna be a dark gray. The colors I'm gonna use to create that dark gray tone are black and white. So I've already created my dark gray color on my palette here. So this is it right here. How I got to this is just black and white. So mostly black and just a little bit of white. I definitely want this to be lighter than black. So as I am doing this, I'm right next to my black so I can see that I am probably about 2 shades lighter than my black. So this way we can build some shadows behind and next to our little critter coming out of the fence. So that looks pretty good. So I'm going to put my mixing tool away. I'm going to take out my chalk. I do recommend that your canvas is dry before you start drawing on it as well. So what I'm first going to do is I'm going to there's a little piece to the fence at the bottom that's going to have our berries sitting on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come on the bottom left-hand corner. I'm going to come up about 1 inch, almost 2 inches, a little bit shy of 2 inches, give myself a little marker. Oh, and I'm going to use my, probably my large brush as a measuring tool. So however tall I did this one, I can measure it with anything. You can measure it with a paintbrush, you can measure it with a ruler, whatever you want, and come over to the other side and make yourself a mark at about the same height, and then you just connect these two. It does not have to be a perfectly straight line. It could even be crooked a little bit. This is a fence. It can have all kinds of characteristics in it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw 2 vertical lines that are going to separate the 2 slats of the fence. So I'm going to find myself about the center at the top of my canvas, and I'm going to come over to the right about 1 inch, give myself a marker, and then I'm going to come to the left about, I would say maybe 3.5 inches. And then what I can do from here is I can take my brush again, use it as a measuring tool to see how far away I did that one. I'm going to come all the way down to the bottom of my this piece that we just made and make a mark, and then I can just connect them. So something like that. And these don't have to be perfectly straight either. If you've ever seen an old weathered fence, those posts or those slats can definitely have some little bits of wobble and stuff in them. So then you can just measure from here to here with, again, your fancy measuring tool, and then come back down to the bottom and give yourself another marker at a same distance away from that, and then you're just going to connect those two. Then what I'm going to do with my large brush is I'm going to pick up some of that dark gray color, and I'm going to paint this center section in with this dark gray color. So when I get to my my chalk mark, I don't need this to be a really clean edge. In fact, for me, my head tells me don't make it super clean, because this, I'm going to be doing the edge of the slat that's going to be a little out of focus, because the focus is on our little squirrel. So I don't need these edges to be perfect. I just really am looking to get this colored in. So once I've got this done, I'm just go over here on the right hand side. We are going to be using this same brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can make any little adjustments that you feel are necessary, and then you're going to want to wash and dry this large brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint wood grain into the fence. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush. The colors that I'm going to use are white, dark gray, brown, tan, and light blue. And if I use any other colors, I'll let you know. I am going to be adding my wood texture or my wood grain into these entire pieces, even though part of this piece in a future step we're going to give the actual sections, they're going to look a little bit more three-dimensional, but right now I just want to put the wood grain in. I am going to be allowing myself to be very free on this step, so I'm not going for photorealism. I'm just trying to give myself a little bit of wood texture. The squirrel is really close to us, and the squirrel and the berries become the focal point, so all this other stuff just is kind of background noise. You could certainly do a smooth fence, you could do wood grain like I'm doing, you can really have fun with it. But what I'm first going to do is I'm going to be adding with my brush, I'm not going to be painting with the wide side of my brush. Most of the time I'm going to be painting with the narrow side of the brush, and I'm going to be giving myself almost like squiggle lines that are going to allow me to have this wood grain texture. They can be closer in some areas, farther apart in other areas, but it's a real close-up look of this wood grain texture, the slats of the fence. These two pieces in through here are going to be tucked behind this one down at the bottom. So I'm going to do the one at the bottom last. I'm going to do these two first. So I'm going to start over on this side. I'm going to be starting with whatever color I used on that particular side. So, I mean, this one I used both the tan and the light blue, but predominantly the light blue over there. So on this side where I used the tan, I'm going to use that tan plus something. So I can use it plus my dark gray or plus white in order to give myself this light and dark look, or plus brown. So I've got my tan on my brush. I'm going to add a little bit of my dark gray to it. And then once I've got that on my brush, I can start adding this textural or almost stripy type look to it. If you're going about this and you're saying, I like the way that it's looking, but it's a little too dry looking, I don't feel as if I'm getting long enough brush strokes with my wood grain, you can always add a tiny bit of water onto your brush, and that's going to allow you to kind of pull these where you're going to see a smoother appearance to them, where the paint, it won't look so dry on the surface of your canvas. So that looks good in through there. I'm going to keep going with this. Maybe you have some that are really kind of close together. They don't all have to take on the same curve, but if you want that wood grain to look pretty believable, they will tend to take a similar curve for a while, and then they can kind of, some areas get more narrow, some get more wide, some will have more lightness to them. So just know that this textural element that I'm giving it does not have to be super symmetrical. That's where it'll look better if it'll look a little bit more natural if it's not really hyper systematic. So I just keep picking up dark gray and light the tan in order to get this to appear. And then I can pick up a tiny bit of white paint if I want there to be some lighter areas. And it doesn't have to just be a smooth line coming down. If you feel like you could even have these almost like horizontal type of dot marks, which will make that wood grain itself look like it's got some additional texture, so it's not super smooth. So those are little effects that you could kind of give it once you've determined how that actual wood grain is going to appear. And if the white is too bright, you can add white plus a tiny bit of brown. So that's going to give you a different type of highlighted color to it. And if you have chosen to do different tones as I'm doing on this side, or different kind of brush strokes as I'm doing on this side, just when you go to the other side, you're going to want to carry those same thoughts or those same type of brush, that same type of brush work. And again, that right side for me is going to be a little bit more cool in tone, so I will use a little bit more of the of that light blue. And you can see right now I'm just kind of adding these little textural kind of effects onto the exterior of that wood grain. That's looking pretty good to me. I think I want to add a touch more lightness up at the top. So on this side, my colors were my tan, my dark gray, white, and brown. And again, I'm just kind of adding little textural marks into that that wood grain and just pulling it out. That looks pretty good to me. So now I'm going to go ahead and do something similar on the other side. If I can get this to, if I can stop. I love doing these faux finishes because I just know that they're really organic and I can have a lot of fun with them. Just also down here, make sure that down at the bottom, you've brought this all the way down to your mark. Even if you, of that horizontal board, even if you go past it and bump into it a little bit, that's fine. That'll give you room to, when we go and paint it on there, we will have, you'll be able to overlap it. So now I'm going to move on to the other side. So I can start in the same way where I had my, and I don't wash my brush. I can use my light blue plus a touch of my dark gray, and this too, I can sit and I can say, okay, well, here's kind of the general big groove for my wood grain, and you can start with like one or two main ones, especially if, so I'm using a photo reference to guide me through this particular painting. If you're using a photo reference and you've got some sort of visual aid that has the wood grain in it, or has something that you can kind of latch onto, maybe one or two distinct characteristics, that helps you to just start the process. So on this particular photo reference that I'm using, over on this right hand side, there's a couple of really big distinct grooves in the wood grain. So I use that to my advantage, and I let it guide me through those first couple, and then it kind of shimmies off to the left where it's a more vertical kind of wood grain. So I can just kind of use that gray and the light blue and just kind of working this up and down. And again, I do have a little bit of water on my brush, which is allowing me to kind of have these transparent areas where some of the paint is really thin, and allowing for me to just get this quick illusion happening with this wood grain. That looks pretty awesome to me. So now what I'm going to do is just make sure I've got enough down here at the bottom, and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to start picking up a tiny bit of white on my dirty brush and pop in some of this texture that I had done on the left hand side. I want to emulate that on this right hand side. I'm kind of doing it more in the lighter stripes than in the darker ones, to put these kind of light tones in through here. And then if I wanted that little kind of horizontal textural type of element to it. And I think one of the biggest tricks for me is I never use a lot of paint on my brush. I'm always very conservative with the quantity of paint. So that way, as I'm going through these processes, if I do something that I don't like, I'm not committed to, you know, a big huge glob of paint on my canvas. I can just kind of gently rub it out and then just keep adding to that illusion and building on top of it, so it doesn't hinder me from continuing to build on top of it. But because for this particular faux finish, I did my wood grain first, now I can just take these lighter tones and pop on these little textural kind of elements, and as they're drying, I can just kind of gently rub them out a little bit, so they just give me this really old kind of weathered look to it. Maybe it's got you know, texture in that fence because it's just old and maybe a little dried. I know my fence posts or the slats in my fences, when they get old and dried, it's almost like the wood starts to kind of pick away and have all that little extra, you know, information on it. I'm thinking that that's pretty good for these top guys. So I'm going to go down and do this one down in through here. So I think down in through here, I'm going to pick up a little bit of my dark gray, brown, and my tan, just because it doesn't really have a defined cool or warm side to it. So I'm going to put these three colors kind of at the bottom side of it, because it is a little bit three-dimensional. I'm going to pull this out here too so we can see the bottom of my canvas. And I don't really need to do much. I just want to make sure that I have it colored in. So that looks pretty good. And I'm going to put the top a little bit lighter because we're seeing the top of this and then it kind of falls down. So I'm going to pick a little bit of white and brown up on my brush and get this top side to be a little bit lighter. And again, you can see I'm not doing perfect edges, but I do want to make sure that it overlaps those pieces, these back pieces. And of course, if I wanted there to be a little bit more information, I just picked up a little bit of my dark gray, and you could certainly have these little kind of slats throughout it, maybe a little bit of brown in my dark gray, just to define this little edge in through here. And of course, you can fiddle as much as you want with it, but once you've got it into a place that is pleasing to your eye, you could even put little pieces of little wood grain up in through here if you felt confident enough to do so. But once you've got this done, we are going to be, we're going back to our drawing utensil for the next step. So you can put this brush away, take out a drawing utensil, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to be doing for the next step is we're going to be drawing an outline for our squirrel and the berries. I'm using my chalk. You could, of course, use any drawing utensil that's comfortable to you. I'm going to guide you through a series of markers. We're going to connect those markers, and by the time we're done, we'll have a really simple, basic outline that we'll be able to utilize during the painting in process. So I'm not going for any fine-tuned detail, just some nice, simple outlines. I do also need to put the inside edge of the two fence slats on as well. So this way we've got a three-dimensional appearance where the little squirrel is peeking out of. So I'm going to do that first just to give us a couple of vertical lines. I'm going to start, oh, and it's going to be easier if your canvas is dry before you start this step too. I'm going to, up at the top right-hand corner of this section, I'm going to go to the right about an inch, and I'm going to just make myself a marker, and then at the bottom I'm going to do the same thing, and then I'll just connect these with a vertical line. Again, doesn't have to be super duper straight, just something that will kind of separate the outside from that little inside lip. And then on the left side, this one's not going to be as wide as that one because of the angle that we're seeing it at. So I'm going to go back up to the top and go to the left maybe about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch, and then do the same thing down at the bottom, and then just connect these coming down in through here. So this will give us a little place for our squirrel to be peeking out. So I'm first going to put the squirrel head on, and then we'll build the other details. So I'm going to find myself the center of my canvas. So top to bottom, left to right. For me, that's somewhere right about in through here. I give you this just so we can kind of have a starting point to build off of with our shapes. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to the left of that, maybe about an inch, and then up about an inch. This is going to be the bottom portion of the face in through here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come straight up from that until I'm about 1, 2, 3, almost 4 inches from the top of my canvas, somewhere in through there. So that's going to be the tallest part of the head. And the head is kind of tipped, so the cheeks or the eyes, or below the cheek eye area, is going to be somewhere in through here. So it's going to be tipped to the side. So if I come up maybe about 2.5, 3, maybe about 2 inches actually, and then come just outside of my fence, somewhere in through here, that's going to represent his left cheek, our right cheek. And then if I come over to the left, straight across from here, and go just a little bit outside of that fence and up maybe about an inch, that's where the next cheek is going to go. So this gives us a little bit of a tipped head, and it's more coming out. We're going to see more of the face on the left hand side. So I'm going to take from here to here, and I'm just going to kind of give it a curve like this, and then round it at that cheek, and it's going to come and meet down here. So I can curve this a little bit and then just kind of bring it up like that. And then on this side, I'm going to start here and meet that in through there. This side is a little bit trickier because right where this is, I'm going to make a little bump out for where the eye is going to go. So I'm going to bump that out, and then I can connect here to up in through here with another curve. So again, we're going to see like the profile of this eye. I'm going to put we're going to see one full ear over here. So where you had the marker for the top of the head, go to the left maybe about 1/2 inch to 3/4, somewhere in through there. And the bottom of this ear is going to intersect right in through here. The top of the ear, if you just go straight up from here, almost halfway between here and the top of your canvas, so somewhere right in through here, that's where that can end. I'm going to take this and just give a little curve at the top, and I can bring this in like that. The other ear's kind of tucked and bent back, so we're just going to give it a little like nubby thing. So from here, I'm going to just take it and give it a little curve, and it comes and curves right above where that eye is. So again, it's kind of like tucked back and smushed in between the fence. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the little hand coming out over here. I'm not going to put the claws on yet. I just want to kind of have the fingers coming out. The whole arm and body just disappear into the darkness of this fence. So I'm going to just put a section on for where the hand or where the little fingers are going to come out. And then we'll get it to blend into this negative dark space later. So I'm going to come somewhere in this vicinity, just give myself a little curve like that. I'm going to give myself 2 more curves that are going to come past this little fence line in through there, or the corner of the fence like that. And then I'm going to give myself 1 more little curve in through here. And then the bottom of the hand kind of comes like this. And then I'm just going to give myself a vertical line here. This hand, or these fingers, whatever direction they might be in, are going to just disappear into this dark area. So we're going to fade it after here into this dark area. So I just wanted to section it off so we have somewhere to start the painting process. And then down below we're going to have 4 berries. So you could really put these in whatever assortment or array that you would like. I'm going to kind of stick to something similar to what my photo reference is. So I have a smaller one kind of coming in through here, and then I have a larger one kind of coming over here that kind of goes into that edge of the fence a little bit, so it'll be overlapping that a little bit. Then I have another one kind of coming in through here. Again, actually this one doesn't overlap that. This one is a little shy of that. Excuse me, a little shy of this corner in through here. So something like this, and this goes all the way down to the base of this little ledge, and then it kind of tucks back in through here. And then there's another one that comes and overlaps this corner in through here. And then we'll put the stem on after we get these edges done, but I'm thinking that that's good for our outline. So once you're done this, we're going to use our number 6 round brush for the next step, so you can just get ready. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish the fence. So that's going to be these 2 inside pieces, and we're going to put the first layer onto our berries. I'm going to be using my number 6 round brush. The colors I'm going to use are brown, yellow, burnt sienna, tan, that light warm gray, and maybe a little bit of black too. If I go into any other colors, I'll let you know. So what I want to do is I want to add a shadowy side to this little section in through here, and a light side to this section in through here. And then I'm going to be adding a, I need base color for my berries. So burnt sienna, red, and yellow are going to be my base coat for my berries. So again, I'm going to just do these guys in through here. I do want to put a little shadow on this side of my squirrel. So I'll leave a little section in through here that's going to be shadow, but we'll have light, and then this is going to be shadow too. So I'm going to start on this side over here with brown, my tan, and a touch of yellow. So brown, tan, and a touch of yellow. And I'm just going to kind of allow this to have a deeper tone with a little bit of that yellow in it. And again, I want it to look like wood grain, so I don't want to have a super smooth application here. If I did, actually, I feel like I want to go into my dark gray too. So I'm picking up a little bit of my dark gray as well, just to kind of enhance these tones on this inside. You could probably get away with using a lot of the dark gray, actually, now that I'm using it in conjunction. It's turning out to be quite a nice tone to use as the shadow over on this side. And again, this is just to kind of give myself this this darker area around this section of the fence. I am using a little bit of water on my brush as well. I can have it nice and dark underneath this little hand as well. And again, brown, yellow, dark gray, tan, those are my colors that I'm using right now in order to, I don't want it to go too yellow. That's, so just be cautious with the yellow itself. I just want it to kind of look like the inside of the building, and maybe it's got a little bit of reflective qualities on it for whatever is surrounding it. I'm going to go a little bit darker down here, so this is going to be a little bit more of my dark gray. Oops, didn't mean to go into that. A little bit of my dark gray in through here. And of course, you can play with this as much as you want in order to get these little grooves to be more more wood grain-esque if you wanted to, but I'm thinking that that's looking pretty good. Whatever dirty paint you have on your finger, you can just rub elsewhere. I'm going to pick up a little bit more of my tan just to smooth this out just a itty bitty bit. And again, that little bit of water on my brush with that additional color always helps to just kind of act as like a little bit of a glaze of sorts in order to get it to sink into the little crevices of the canvas. And then over on this right hand side, if I can ever stop doing this, over on the right hand side is going to be a couple of highlighted areas to show that the light source is kind of coming in this way. So I'm going to pick up white and brown with a little bit of water on my brush and get these lighter tones in through here. And I didn't wash my brush, so if I do have any bits of the other colors from the other side on there, I'm totally okay with that. And again, just making sure my chalk is taken care of, so just going through where my chalk was. And you can really get this side to go pretty darn light, so as you're going through this, if you are comfortable with making some really light marks, then feel free to do so. That'll only increase the drama of it. So I'm going pretty darn light right on that corner where it's meeting that side panel, and then coming down in through here right behind the squirrel's head. I think I want that a little bit darker, so I'm gonna pick up a touch of brown on my brush with water, and this is going to give this a little bit darker of a tone in through here, almost as if the squirrel is kind of shadowing down that wall. But of course it doesn't have to be, you know, super dark, but something a little bit darker than up there would make sense. And you could always make it, I'm picking up a little bit of my dark gray too, you can always make it darker after you see the squirrel on here, but I'm definitely putting a good amount of darkness right by where that squirrel head is going to go. And as I come down and into the light down here, I'm just going to start picking up more white with a little bit of water on my brush just to enhance this area as if it is in the light, getting rid of my chalk marks. And then I will go ahead and add the base coat for my berries. So this looks pretty good, and I'm cool with all of that in through there. So sticking my head back, that looks good. All right, so my berries are going to be, I I'm going to use burnt sienna, red, and yellow, and I'm going to make them pretty darn rich in tone. You could really have them one solid color if you wanted to as a base coat, but again, the picture that I'm depicting, the berries are kind of in different shades. So I'm going to start with red and burnt sienna on my brush for this bottom one in through here. And my paint is transparent or translucent, which means you can see right through it. So as I go over these areas that have a light base and a dark base, you're going to be able to see that the color that's behind. You'll be able to see that through my paint in this stage, which I'm okay with, because as I go through my painting process, the layers that I build on top of these berries will eliminate that that structure. I'm going to use a little bit of burnt sienna, and we're going to say that there's a berry back here underneath here, so just a little bit of that burnt sienna for that. And then this guy up here, I'm going to use more, going to pick up more red on my brush. And again, you could have yours in whatever color that you want. You could have little purple berries if you wanted, or yellow berries, whatever you want. I think these red berries are very iconic for the autumn time of squirrels gathering their goods for the winter months. So that's, I'm sure, where this photo came into play. For this little squirrel is gathering all of his nuts for his berries and nuts for the fall. I'm going to use red and yellow as I come into these two guys and through here. So this is red and yellow on my brush. And again, you could do these all one solid color for the base coat and then build these tones on top of it. I just thought it would be a great lesson to show you how you can build these different, it's one kind of berry with all these different kind of progressive tones from one berry to the next, and start it during that first kind of base coat stage. So this is my red and my yellow, and then this one ooh, I missed this little part up here. I got distracted, I guess. I wanted to go on to the next one fast. So this one in through here, I think I'm going to just use red down at the bottom, and then the top looks pretty darn more on the yellow side, so I'm going to put some yellow up in through here. And again, transparent paint is going to show what's underneath it, so this may appear to be a bit green in this stage, especially on this top one, which is fine by me, because that's just going to build those layers. And then we're going to be using our small brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put this brush away, take out your small detail brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint some facial features. I'm using my small round number 2 brush. The colors that I'm going to use are black, white, blue, burnt sienna, yellow, and maybe some brown. And if I use any other colors, I'll let you know. I might use some of that warm gray, that tan color, but we'll see how this goes. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my eyes in place and where I want my nose and my mouth, and then I'm going to build all my little details around that. So I'm going to start with a touch of black paint and water on my brush. So black and water, so it's kind of thin, like an ink consistency, maybe a little bit thicker than that, but fluid enough so I can get some nice clean lines. So I already have this eye pretty much determined where I want it. So what I can do from the top of that, where this little curve mark meets, I can bring this down in a curved manner like that, and then from the bottom portion just bring it out like that. And then I can just color this in with my black paint. I'm just doing a thin coat of black paint, so that way when so it'll dry pretty fast and I can build details on top of it. Just going to make sure that I bring this all the way out. I think I need a little bit more water on my brush just so my paint cooperates the way that I want it to. So there we go. That looks pretty good. And then once I've got that eye on, I can go put the other eye on. So again, the head's kind of tipped, and I'm gonna have the top part of it, if I just kind of go straight over from the top of this one until I'm maybe about, I would say, an inch away from that ear, and then go up about another inch somewhere in through here. That's going to be the equivalent of the top of that one. And again, we're seeing these kind of at different angles. So what I'm going to do for this one is it's going to come kind of down at a curve like this. And they got to kind of be similar in size. So you don't want the bottom of this one to come way down here. So just be mindful of that. The outside edge, I'm going to give it a little bit of a curve as well, but it's not overlapping the head. So this one we're just kind of seeing, again, just a different angle of it. And then I can just fill this little part in like this. I'm just kind of making sure they work well together. Maybe that needs to go down just a little bit. There we go. And then once I've got that on there, then I can go and start building where I want my mouth and my nose to go. So again, just a little bit of wet, watered down black is going to be my kind of drawing utensil, I guess. So I'm gonna, this little area that dips in through here, I'm gonna come up just a little bit from that to just say where I want that mouth to go. So somewhere in through here. And then I'm gonna do the same thing for the nose. The nose is again kind of tipped to the side, so we can, you know, kind of get that cute little side angle on our little guy. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash my brush. I want the eyes to dry for a minute before I head back up there. As a matter of fact, I have a little thick spot here. I want to just paint out so it doesn't take too long to dry. There we go. So I'm going to put kind of like a pinkish hue on the skin, on the nose of the mouth. So I'm going to start with some burnt sienna, and I'm going to take it from the center here and just bring this down into that mouth. I might use a little bit of red as well. I wasn't sure if I was going to use just burnt sienna or mix it with a little bit of red, but we're going to just start with the burnt sienna and see where it takes us. So I'm going to put a little bit in through here on this little cute nose and the little mouth, a little separation between that mouth and the nose. So they kind of almost look similar to one another, which is super cute. I think I want to bring that mouth down just a little bit more too. I'm going to pick up a little bit more black just to bring this down just a little bit more in through here. That looks cute. So while those are drying, I'm going to go back up to those eyes. So I want to put a light area around them. I'm going to use, I totally forgot what colors I said I was going to use, but I'm going to use a little bit of yellow, brown, and white to create this kind of light golden color. We'll use this later on too as we move through the fur process. So I'm going to call this a light golden kind of color. I'm going to put this around the eyes. So I'm going to put a little bit around here, just this little kind of fur section, and then underneath here as well. And again, keep in mind, we're just seeing these from an angle, and one angle is going to be different than the other. So I've got this one kind of coming on in through here. And I'll put, again, more information on these later, but I just want to start this process of where these colored sections are going to go, and then that way if I do need to make any little adjustments as I go through the process, I can certainly do that. So that looks pretty good. It looks like there's a little kind of separation with some gray between this eye and that colored marking, and same thing over here. I probably brought this up a little bit too high, but that's okay. So now I'm going to put some color in those eyes. I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I'm going to pick up a little bit of brown, and I'm going to put a colored spot in this bottom portion of the eye. So a little bit of brown goes down in that bottom portion. Same thing over here. Just kind of a little swipe of color, curved swipe of color down at the bottom. Now what I can do is I'm going to pick up a little bit. I don't know if I said I was going to use this color. This is my tan, that warm gray color. I'm just going to put a little reflection on this side over here. So I'm just going to take this and just kind of swipe it down, that curve of the eye. On this left hand side, this one looks a little kind of different to me, so but I still feel like there should be something on the outside of that eye like that. Now I'm gonna, on my dirty brush, I'm gonna pick up a little bit of blue and my gray, and I'm gonna put a little kind of, oh, I want more blue than that. We're going more blue. A little reflective kind of section on this eye. You could do it on this right eye too, but this right eye seems more in the shadow to me, so I don't really want to overdo that. Then I'm picking up a little bit of white, and I'm going to put a little sparkle on this eye, so it goes somewhere in through here, and then down there. That looks pretty good. A little light spot in through there. That looks good. So I'm going to, and again, you don't need to do much to them. They are, we're seeing very little bit of detail on these features simply because the squirrel is kind of tucked in. On the nose and the mouth, I am going to pull a little bit of red and white. I just put a little bit of red and white on my brush to just give me almost a little kind of pinkish hue, just a teeny tiny bit on top of here, maybe just a little bit at the edge of this nose as well. And then I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of that warm gray. So I'm washing my brush, sorry. A little bit of warm gray just to kind of add a little additional highlight just here on that little nose, just a little tiny bit. That looks pretty good. I think that's all I'm going to do for those features. Actually, maybe a little bit of my warm gray underneath that mouth too, just a tiny bit, because this is a really tiny spot. And I think that's all I'm going to be doing. So we're going to use our number 6 round brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put this small brush away, take out your number 6 round, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint the body of the squirrel. I'm going to be using my number 6 round brush, and I use the term body loosely because we're really just going to put this whole area in through here. We're going to tuck it into the dark shadow of wherever he is. I don't know if he's in a barn. I don't know if he's in a garage. I don't know where he is, but his body is super tucked in there. And we're going to have lots of darkness over here. And then we're just going to see the hint of his little fur underneath his chin and maybe on his belly. So I'm going to be using black, brown, burnt sienna, yellow, and maybe a little bit of that tan as well. So I'm going to start with black paint first, and I'm really just going to make this whole right area super dark. I'm just going right down my wood, and I'm going to bring it right into here, right behind my berry. And then once I've got it on there, I can even just kind of scoot it down in through here. Again, the squirrel is just in the shadows. So we're just going to have little pieces of him emerging from behind these shadows, or out from this dark shadow. So you don't just want a super dark line in through there. I want it to blend into like this gray area. So instead of having a line, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my brush, and with that black on it, I can just kind of rub it towards the left. I do need a little bit more black because I'm running out, and I still want some underneath here. So black, I loaded my brush a little bit more. If this is kind of a little hint of his arm in through here, maybe there's a little darkness underneath here. And then this is going to become maybe his belly. Maybe there's a little darkness under his arm or something. So something like that. So now that I've got some nice darkness in through there, now I can start giving the hint of some squirrel colors. So without washing my brush, I'm going to pick up brown and burnt sienna. And then I'm going to take these gray areas and I'm going to do something similar to what I did with the black. I'm going to take the brown and the burnt sienna, and I can just kind of rub this in and give myself just the hint of some little squirrel fur just emerging from that darkness of whatever that shadowy area is. I'm going to do the same thing up here, so just a little bit of burnt sienna and brown. I might use a little bit of yellow in a minute as well. And maybe this is the hint of his arm, maybe it's his shoulder. It's gonna merge into the hand here. So I just push my brush a little bit to get whatever tones were in there. I'm just gonna kind of blend it over that little chalk line, something like this. And then if you wanted any areas to pop out just a little bit more, you could certainly pick up a tiny bit of yellow or maybe yellow, brown, and a touch of that tan. And say if I wanted a little bit extra little fur popping out underneath his chin, I could just take this and just kind of tap it in a little bit. If that was too yellow, pick up just a little bit of burnt sienna to just kind of dull it down a little bit, and it will turn darker as it dries simply because you are on a dark surface. So that'll work out for me in through there. And then this little hand and stuff, we'll add some detail onto that as we go through the process. But I'm thinking that that's all I need to do for this little cute body, just popping out from behind that wherever he's at. Once you've got that done, we're going to use this same brush for the next step. So you can just wash it and dry it and get ready. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we are going to do the second step on our berries. So I'm going to use my medium number 6 round. What I'm going to be doing in this step is I'm going to be doing the first layer of the stems and the second layer of the red berry part, and I'll be putting in where there's some little brown ends to it. I'll do that too. So I'm going to be using blue, yellow, white, red, and brown, and that should be it. So I'm going to create a custom green color for my stem, which I have magically done on my palette here. So this color here, how I achieved this is yellow, blue, and a touch of white. So yellow and blue makes green, says my first grade art teacher. And once I've achieved the green that I like, I'm going to add just a tiny touch of white into it just to help with my opacity a bit. And this is where I'm going to start my stems with. So I've got my color going on in through here. I'm going to have my stem kind of popping out over in through here, and it's just going to connect to my berries. So I've got this kind of coming in through here, and it's going to connect right to this berry like this. And you can have them going behind the berries, you can have them going in front of the berries. This one actually kind of connects in through here and then scoots over and is attached to this guy over here, kind of on top and behind that this little front berry. So something like that. And then we've got kind of a mishmash of little stems kind of coming out behind here. And I'm just kind of doing a base coat, allowing for this little separations between my stems. I'm just using a flat color. You could certainly start your color variations on this similarly to how we did the berries themselves. How I started with a couple of different tones on my palette. We used the burnt sienna, red, yellow, but right now I'm just showing you a different approach where you can start with with one base color. So there's so many different ways to achieve the same effect or different effects it's just a matter of understanding what way is easiest to build for you, or maybe they're all easy ways to build for you, and you can just look at something and say, okay, well, I want that incorporated, and I'm going to approach it this way. So knowing what way you are comfortable with approaching it is, you know, half the battle in itself. So right now I'm just showing you a couple of different techniques. I think that looks pretty good. Oh, and I'm seeing like these little kind of almost like little spiky things on the on some of the stems. That's kind of what that thing was. You can have the spiky things or not, but that's what I'm seeing. So now I'm gonna I see some little brown areas on the edges of some of these berries, like the little tips of them. So I'm gonna, I wash my brush, I'm picking up some brown paint, and I'm gonna put in these little brown areas. I think it's just like it kind of the edge of like a little blueberry, how they have that dark tip to them. It's not like a stem or anything. It's just kind of like almost the opening of the, that's not the right word either. It's just the top. I don't have a better word for it. It's just the top. And it looks like it could open to me. So that looks good. I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I'm going to put the second coat on these berries. So this is where I'm going to start to get them to look a little bit more three-dimensional. I'm going to use a lot of yellow and red and white in order to achieve this. I just picked up a little bit of yellow and white. This one is going to be pretty darn bright up at the top. In through here. I'm just slowing down so I can have a nice edge to that, and then I just am going to blend it out. I think I want more white kind of in this area in through here. It looks like it's pretty darn white as it's meeting this little nub in through there, and there's a little brown spot too. So I see a little brown spot. You can put that in there, and as you're doing these, you don't have to go as much into the detail as I'm doing. I'm picking up some yellow and red right now to get this this other side in its brightness in through here. You definitely don't have to pull yours as far as I pull mine into the this kind of three-dimensional appearance. But if you do like to have that dimensional element to it, building it in this kind of way will definitely help. I'm picking up some yellow and a red for this side over here. This side might be a little bit browner. I'm going to pick up a touch of brown too. And for me, on this particular type of berry, I'm seeing that there's so many different shades of the yellow, the orange, even like these hints of brown that are giving it its real shape. So I'm going to go over here with a little bit more yellow and white, I feel, and maybe a little bit of red too. This one's a little bit more kind of orangey up at the top. So I'm just putting my highlight on that, the part that I feel is pretty darn illuminated, especially at the top. That's when I'm picking up a little bit more red on my dirty brush, and then I can just kind of blend it out. You may need more than one layer as you go through your process. Feel like there's a big bright spot in through here on this one, but I'm just kind of finding where that lightness is on the berry, and I'm trying to get it into a similar tone that I'm seeing in the photo. And then I'm going to fade it down into the darkness. So this one is pretty dark down here. So I'm going with brown at this bottom side. Then I wipe my brush off. I'm picking up burnt sienna. I don't remember if I said I was using burnt sienna or not. And then I'll go into my red. And then I'm going to just kind of close this one off up and through here. So by the time I'm done this step, if I still have spots where I can see through my paint, like right here, I'm going to add a tiny bit of white to the equation to help with that that opacity in that one area, and then I can come back and I can add a little bit of darkness on top of it if I felt I needed to do that, or I can add those darker colors onto it if I felt that I needed to enhance that any. But I think that that might even work as well on that one. Just kind of scooting that out like that. That looks pretty good. And then this guy underneath here, he's pretty dark, but I'm going to start with my yellow and white. A lot of lightness right in through here. And I might have another step where I come back and say, you know, and enhance these even more, but this step might be all I need to do for the berry color themselves. But I definitely have the step to come and finish those stems. So again, I'm just kind of taking the lighter areas, enhancing them with yellow, white, and or red, a combination thereof. And then I fade it down into where the darkness would be. So yellow and red is going to fade me into this darkness. I don't often wash my brush through this step, if you know, unless I really feel that I have to. So if I'm going through this and my white is overpowering or my red is overpowering, I can certainly wash and dry my brush, but I'm going to try and muscle through it without having to wash my brush because I like it when my colors talk to each other. I'm picking up actually a little bit of brown to get this to go a little bit darker in between these guys, and then just making sure I have a good second coat down here, and then just blending it out to make sure that it has everything in it that I wanted it to. And then of course, if I needed to add anything additional, I certainly could, but I'm gonna give that a rest over on this guy here. He's really light and yellow at the top, so white and yellow is where I'm starting. Really bright right in through here. Oh, that needs more white than that. Really bright, kind of right in through here, and then just kind of fading it out towards that edge in through there. It gets dark underneath here, shadowed by the berry next to it, as well as just kind of shadowed on that bottom side. But I need some yellow and red as I come down kind of in through here. And again, I'm watching my photo to see just how the light is affecting it and where these lighter spots are on the berry, because they really can differ from one to the next just based on what's casting a shadow. Like this berry's casting a shadow on this berry, so it's really dark right in through here. So I'm just making sure that I've accomplished that darkness in through there, and then it just kind of fades into this lighter area in through here. So I just try to emulate that transition from the light to the dark, and you're not always going to get it on the first shot. So as you're doing yours, if you haven't, you know, blended as frequently as I blended and yours isn't coming out exactly as you had anticipated it to come out, just let it dry and do another layer on top of it, doing the same thought process as the first layer, and that's going to help you to achieve a smoother blend and help you to work through that process. Picking up a little bit of burnt sienna and brown to get this edge over here. It looks a little brown over there. And then right on top of here, it's a strange light color. So I'm actually going with a little bit of green and white. It's a little kind of bright area right in through here. So I'm just watching the photo and saying, well, I don't know what that color is, but or why it's there, but I'm going to put it there. And it also looks like this little color's in through here. So that's about as far as I'm going to take those for now. I think I probably will do a second layer when I go, or I'll touch them up again when I go to do those stems. So I'm going to be using this same brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can wash and dry this medium brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we are going to finish our berries and the stems. I'm going to be using my number 6 round brush. The colors I'm going to use are black, brown, white, red, yellow, green, and maybe some burnt sienna. I think those are all the colors I'm going to use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be working probably dark to light because I want some shadows underneath these guys. I want to enhance my shadows in between my berries, and maybe some shadows in these little guys, and then I'll work my way to the light. Hopefully, I don't think we need to do a ton of work on these, but I definitely have some smoothing out issues that I want to attend to, and again, just adding that bit more contrast and making sure those stems are done. So I'm going to start with a touch of brown and black and a little bit of water on my brush. I'm going to first tackle the shadows, especially underneath these stems. So I want this to look like it is shadowing onto the wall itself or onto the fence. So I'm just going to take this kind of down, give myself a nice, pretty crisp kind of shadow. You can, as you can probably detect, I just kind of changed the shape of my little stem because I liked those little poking out pieces. So I just put a little bit more shape on my piece. You could even have it kind of shadowing over on that side, over in through there. And again, if you needed to use a different brush, feel free to use a different brush. I like to just kind of put a little bit of water on my brush. That's going to give me, allow me to kind of have a diffused edge to my shadow. That looks pretty good. I'm going to pick up a little bit more brown on my dirty brush right now. Give myself a little bit of maybe a lighter kind of shadow alongside that one. I like the black better. Black and brown. Sometimes I'm cautious and then sometimes I'm too cautious. Maybe I've got a little separation between this one and this one, so I can add a little bit of darkness in between those two. I'm also going to put a little bit of shadow in between some of these guys down in through here. So as you're doing it, again, you don't have to do it exactly as I'm doing it. I'm just kind of following or being inspired by a photo reference, but you could certainly have yours in whatever way you want. So that looks pretty good to me on those. I'll come back for some highlights in a minute, but while I've got this dark color on my brush, I'm going to pick up a little bit more black. I feel like I want to add some little black marks in through this guy, in through here, maybe a little bit of darkness at the bottom side of this one in through here, little bits in through here. That looks pretty good. Under this berry on this wall, I feel that this should be a little bit darker too. So I'm just going a little bit darker down in through there. Could even in between these two berries, if you felt that they needed a little bit more separation, add a little tiny bit of shadow in through there. This one's pretty good. I think I'm going to go for the darkness in here. I was going to put a berry back there because I think there is actually one in the photo, but I'm just going to go for a darkness down in through here because I think it'll let these berries pop a bit more and just make sure that there's a nice shadow at the bottom of this berry. Like that. That looks good. And then this little tiny spot right in through here. Just make sure that's as dark as I want it to go. And there's a couple little dark spots on this guy. That looks good. So that's pretty much how deep dark I'm going to get it to go. So now I'm going to wash my brush to get the black off of it. And I'm going to start building some nice highlights on my stems. So I'm going to go with my green, yellow, and white as going to be my my highlight on here. And I'm just going to put those three colors on my brush at the same time. So this is going to be green, yellow, and white, and maybe a little bit more white than that. And I'm just going to kind of bring it down and have whatever intensity it is speaking to me. I'm feeling that it's pretty darn vibrant in the photo and pretty bright, so I'm going to allow myself to be very carefree and take on these bright highlights and allow for these dimensional elements to take shape on these stems. And I'm just bringing it right where I see it. kind of meeting the berry, and I don't need clean lines because it's a natural element here, so I can have little bumps, I can have colors blending but then not blending in certain areas. So don't feel that if your brush isn't as in control as you would like it to be, that you're not, you know, if you don't get the blend that you want, don't feel like you're doing something that is not going to look natural, because things tend to look more natural in nature when they are not perfect. So as you're going through your process, just, you know that that's my professional opinion. I'm going to pick up, again, this is yellow, green, and white. I can put little bumpies. I can put this little guy kind of coming in here. There's another little bright spot coming in here. And then those back guys, they don't look as bright as the front ones. So I'm going to wipe my brush off, just pick up another layer of green. Make sure that that is translating well. That looks pretty good. And then you could even pick up a tiny bit of burnt sienna in your green, and this could give you these little kind of spikes, if you will. You can put these little bits of additional natural tones in through that stem, and that'll help, again, just to add a little bit more dimensional element to it. So the stem looks pretty good to me, and of course you could fiddle with it as much as you want. I think I want a little bit more of my green and white up here on this little tip, just so we can really get that to pop. That looks good. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and finish the berries, and I just need a couple little tweaks on them, making sure that they are fully executed. I put a little bit of water on my brush. I'm just getting rid of some of my chalk marks right now so they don't distract me through this final little pass in through here. So again, I'm using the same colors, red, yellow, white, maybe a little bit of burnt sienna or brown. I think I am going to approach it the same way I did before. Just a little yellow and white is going to get me my lighter areas. And I feel like I'm probably just going to be doing another pass on them, very similar to the way that I did the first pass, and allowing myself just to get them to be a little bit smoother. So when I am doing these round type of objects, if I feel the smoothness is going to help me, the smoothness in the blend, if I feel that that's going to help me translate the form on that object, I may go hard into that smoothness. If I feel that it's not going to make much of a difference, then I might back off and not pay as much of attention. I'm picking up a little bit of brown right now on my dirty brush just to kind of finish this little piece while I'm here washing and drying my brush. I feel I need to put more white back into this little area right here. So, you know, depending on what type of style you're going for, or how far into that realism you wanna push it, that may dictate how far you bring that perfect blend, or that you know, all that kind of hyper detail. And those are decisions that you've got to make on your own, depending on, again, what you the detail balance that you want to have within it. So I think that that one looks pretty good. A little bit of water on my brush just to get this over here. And then this guy over here, that's a lot of yellow and white at the top. So I'm just going with another little layer of my yellow and white up at the top, making sure that it is as blended out as I want it to be. This needs a little bit more white in through here. I kind of made that spot a little extra large, which was not necessarily a bad thing, but I think I want to make it a little bit less dominating. And then I can just blend this out, pick up a little bit of yellow and red. And of course, using a smaller brush might benefit you. I tend to like to use a larger brush to allow me to get, for me, a little bit more natural of an appearance, because when I'm using smaller brushes, sometimes I go a little bit too tight and spend too much time on details that are unnecessary. So that's going to be your personal preference. A little bit more yellow and white is going to pop on this guy right in through here. I feel like this guy's pretty good. Just a little extra maybe brightness going on in through here. And then again, this could also be a step to help with the opacity. So I had an area over here that needs to be attended to, and that needed my third layer on it. So as you're doing yours, again, you might be using a different kind of paint. You might be using a different approach to yours that is more conducive. I just picked up some burnt sienna and red, more conducive to it not being so transparent. But as you go through these processes, if you want to enhance them, yellow and white is going on my brush, you have that ability to just continue to put these layers on. That looks pretty good. I think I'm just going to hit this guy here with a little bit of red and white on my brush. This one looks a little bit pinker in through here, and then just kind of blending it out. And then once I've got this done, I just kind of fiddle with this little edge just a little bit more in through here, maybe a little bit there, a little bit here, a little bit there. It's fun though. Once you get into the groove of, ooh, it's almost there, it begins to be a really fun process with just kind of fiddling with these little highlights and allowing for the special effects, if you will, to take shape. I'm putting a little bit of yellow and red on my brush to get this little center area to be a little bit more luminescent with the intensity of those pigment in those colors. So that looks pretty good. And then just fading it down into the dark, just maybe with a little bit of brown and burnt sienna. And then we are going to be using this same brush for the next step. So once you've got your berries done, you can wash and dry this medium brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're gonna do for the next step is we're gonna be painting the base coat for the fur on the head and the hand. I'm using my number 6 round brush. The colors I'm gonna use are black, brown, burnt sienna, and that gold color that we created earlier. So one thing I definitely want to do, I do want to put a little shadow between this ear and the where it's going into this building or room or whatever, wherever that darkness is. So I'm going to put some black in between there. I am going to be putting a little bit of darkness on the ear as well. There's also eventually going to be some little fun fur coming up of there, but I'm gonna work on my darker areas first and work my way to the light. The face on the fur, the fur on the face as well as on the ear is going to be a combination of that that golden color that we created plus the dark gray and maybe even some of that tan color, the lighter warm gray that we had created. And then the hand, I just really want to start it pretty dark, so I'm probably going to be using some brown and some of that darker gray tone to create that base coat and get it to blend into here. So I think on this step the colors I'm going to use are my black, dark gray, brown, gold, tan, and maybe a little bit of burnt sienna, but I'm not sure on that part. So I'm going to start with my black with a little bit of water on my brush to get those really dark areas in. So I definitely want to, where this ear kind of meets the background, I'm just going to kind of put in a little bits of darkness in through there and then just kind of fade this black into that dark gray, just so it kind of sets it back. I could do the same thing kind of behind this ear as well if I felt that that was going to be necessary. I also want to do that kind of in this area, in through here, so where the face kind of meets that piece of wood, just kind of allowing for there to be a pretty darn dark area in through there. Same thing over on this side. So this is going to be my black plus a little bit of water on my brush. I'm going to take this, kind of go right along this ear in through here. This is going to meet the forehead, which meets this little bump of colored part of the fur right there. And then that looks pretty good. And then underneath here, we've got this going pretty dark here. I'm going to pick up a little bit more black to make sure that this just kind of disappears right in through there. And if you felt that you wanted this, the little wood piece to be a little darker, you could certainly amp that up. Or if you felt you wanted that eye to pop out a little bit more, you could certainly amp that up in through there. That looks pretty good. Where else? Maybe a little bit underneath here where the face kind of meets these fingers. Something like this, just a little bit of that darkness in through there. That looks pretty good. So now I'm going to pick up a little bit of my dark gray and brown. So dark gray and brown. I'm going to put these fingers in place. So these fingers are going to have some really long nails on them. So right now I am just kind of getting the main shape of the finger in place, or at least just the kind of profile of it. I think I want to separate these two tips of these fingers a little bit, so I'm gonna pull this one down here. So I'm just doing the main kind of exterior little shape of them. We're going to put the fingers on and knuckles and all that good stuff that's going to make these look really more representational of a little squirrel hand, as opposed to right now it just looks like a little stuffed animal hand. So we'll amp up that detail in a little bit, but I definitely want to just make sure I have the makings of it, the initial making. And then where this meets here, I just am going to blend whatever color I have on my brush right now. I'm just going to kind of lightly blend that over that area in through there. And again, the fingernails or the nails are super long, so trust me when I say this will look better when I'm done. I'm going to pick up a tiny bit more black on my brush so I can start this this ear up and through here with some fun little pieces of fur just kind of sticking straight up from the exterior part of that ear. And then I'm just going to kind of tap this down like this till it meets the head, just kind of polka dotting this in through here. And then I'm going to paint the rest of the face with a combination of the rest of the fur with a combination of my dark gray, brown, and that tan color. So I'm going to start with a little bit of brown to section out where I want the kind of the nose area to go. So I've got this part here. I want to just kind of give myself kind of a little curve like that. This is going to be the face, and this will be kind of the bridge of the nose. And then over on this left hand side, this is going to come kind of like this. So we have a little like cheek area in through here, and then this kind of does that. So that looks pretty good in through there. I'm going to pick up some of my gray right now and just color in these little areas that are overlapping the wood pieces, so that way I don't get confused as I go through this along these edges in through here. So now I have a nice solid color in those areas, so he's all good. I'm gonna oh, and I don't know if I said I was going to use some of that gold color. I'm going to use some of that gold color too. I'm picking that up right now. I'm going to put some sections along the side of the nose. So this is going to be that color that we made earlier around the eyes. So this is a little section around the nose like this. I'm just kind of tapping my brush. I'm picking up brown with my gold right now to get this right side to be a little bit darker than the left side. This is just right along the edge of that nose. That looks cute in through there. And then along this mouth area in through here, or this little cheek area, just tapping, tapping it, so that way I can have some textural type of effect. In through here, that looks good. A little bit of this color is going on in through here. That looks good. Just making sure I've got it everywhere that I want. And then as I move away from that, I'm going to pick up brown plus my gold. So brown plus my gold, so I can get it a little bit darker as I'm going a little bit further away. And we'll make this look better as we build the next layer onto the fur, but right now I just am tapping it so I can still have some of those gray tones from underneath. I put that, I wanted that as the base coat so it would help me build this fur. So right now I'm picking up my gold plus brown and I'm just tapping it on top of that dark gray that I already have. So this way it allows me to use that gray that's underneath as a jumping off point for this fur. So that looks pretty good. I'm going to go a little bit more brown on this nose area. So I just picked up more brown like this. And right on this, I'm going to pick up some of my tan right now and my dark gray. So tan and dark gray, this gives me a little bit different color right here. So this was tan and dark gray and finger. Don't always need to use a finger, but now I'm going back in, wiping my brush off, going back into my my gold color and brown, and I'm gonna put this up in through this area and in through here. So again, as I'm going through this process, I am watching my little photo and I'm saying, okay, well, this area looks to be more brown to me. This area looks to be a little bit more golden to me. And that's where, as I'm going through adding this layer of fur, I can see those changes in colors, and I'm allowing myself to put almost these sections of color on. I allowed myself to kind of outline where that little nose is. There was a cheek area in through here, so I put that dark area. So I'm allowing myself to watch those varying areas with the color shift and then applying the paint as such. So I picked up more of my brown and my gold because I see a little bit of it in the ear in through here. So I'm going to put a little bit of that up in through here. And again, just tapping it in the direction that I feel the fur is going. And then the rest of it, I think, is just going to be a combination of my dark gray and my tan. So again, that the tan I'm calling is that warm light gray that we had created earlier. And I'm just going to kind of tap the rest of the forehead like this, and just giving myself this area of this, and I'm not over blending, that's why I'm just tapping, giving myself this soft fur kind of texture. So dark gray plus that tan or light warm gray. This could go right around this eye, it can go right around the side of the face in through there, even a little bit in this ear up and through here like this. And then up on top of the head I'm seeing a little bit more brown, so I just picked up a little bit more brown on my brush and I'm going to tap that in through there. And then inside the top left ear I'm seeing some brown up there and some burnt sienna. I think I said I was going to use a little burnt sienna. I'm seeing it up here in this ear a little bit, right in through here too. So just these little hints of the burnt sienna up in through here and here. And of course that finger tap back to my dark gray and that tan, and just giving myself a little kind of outline around this ear in through here. We're coming into the home stretch here. I can feel it. I feel it. We've got a good layer on all of the fur. Feel like a little bit more brown above this eye. And then once you've got this done, I think I'm picking up a tiny bit of black too to separate just this little part of the ear. Once you've got this done, we're going to use the small brush for the next step. So you can put this brush away, take out the small brush, and I think that's a great start for this. and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're gonna do for the next step is we're gonna finish the little hand. I'm gonna be using my number 2 round brush. The colors that I'm gonna use are black, brown, burnt sienna, that gold color, and probably white. And if I use any other colors, I'm probably going to use that tan color too, that light warm gray. So what I'm going to first do is I'm going to put my fingernails in place, and then we will add all of our little finger detail, and then we'll come back and put some highlights and shadows on the fingernails. So I'm going to start with just black, watered down black paint for my fingernails, and then I'm going to make them really long, like he hasn't gone to the manicurist to trim them down, and they're good for grabbing onto stuff. So wherever you have kind of the rounded part of that fingertip, based on the angle that this squirrel is at, the nail is coming out kind of the top of that rounded area. So I'm going to give myself this kind of long, curved, pointed type of fingernail. And it's not like a human fingernail where we have a big nail bed. This just kind of like shoots out of the top of their, I guess they're called claws, maybe. I'm probably using the wrong terminology. Nails, claws, pretty similar though. So I'm going to make it a little bit wider as it is at the base of it, or where it's closest to the toe tip or fingertip, and then I'm going to give it get it to go a little bit more narrow as it comes out. And again, these are really long, so don't fear making them, you know, exaggerated and like they've got some good length to them. This one I think is going to come all the way out to here. Looks about right. And then I've got my little baby one on, the little baby finger, the little pinky finger, somewhere in through here. So this one can go maybe something like that. That looks good. And we're seeing them at kind of different angles, so you can certainly feel free to manipulate them a little bit as you see fit. So once I've got that on, now I need to separate my fingers, because it's right now it's just one kind of mass of an area for the fingers. So I'm going to use black with a little bit of brown to just give myself kind of some shadowy areas in between these fingers. I think I'm going to start with this bottom finger and kind of outline the top of it, which is going to give me the shadow to the other one. So I can start this somewhere in through here and just kind of give myself this area that's going to bring me kind of right to that fingernail tip, something like that, and that's going to separate out this back finger, and I can put a little shadow on the bottom of this finger in through here. So something like that. And my next one has a pretty big knuckle area, so I can take it, I'm going to take it, the knuckle of this finger is kind of somewhere, I would say somewhere in this vicinity, so somewhere in through here. And just take this and give myself a little knuckle like that, and then again use this dark color as a shadow on the bottom side of that finger. And then again just black and brown, a little bit of water on my brush. And then the last one up in through here, this one kind of, the knuckle is kind of right above the other one, so something like this. And then this, I use this to shadow that finger, so something like that. And then what I'm going to do, that looks pretty good, again just kind of pulling this down as if, you know, it just disappears into this fur area. So you can certainly have fun with how you want that to transition. I need to get rid of some of my chalk mark underneath here, so while I'm here just kind of getting that to disappear in through there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to, let me just blend this just a little bit in that finger. That looks good. I'm going to start to put my little highlights on, so, or build my way up that fur. I'm gonna wash my brush. I think I'm gonna pick up a little bit of burnt sienna right now, and that gold color, so burnt sienna and the gold color. And I'm gonna put these little highlights at the tops of those fingers. And what I'm also seeing is kind of almost like a little extra fur around where the nail goes into the fingertip. So something like that. And then I just wipe my brush off and just kind of blending it down into the dark part of the finger. So I'm kind of reversing the order that I'm putting it on. The last step I did dark into the midtone, and now I'm going light into the midtone. So again, burnt sienna and a little bit of my gold color is where I'm headed for these little, the start of these highlights, bringing it around that little nail bed, definitely on the top side of those knuckle areas. So something like this, and then just kind of blending it into that gray area. Something like that. So again, gold plus a little bit of burnt sienna is where I'm starting with this. Bringing it around this fingernail like that. Bringing it on that knuckle like that. And then just blending it down into that midtone. And then repeat it on the next little finger. The next little finger looks like it's kind of a little bit more shadowed. So I don't kind of want to make this one a little bit darker, but I can do that after I understand where everything's going. So that looks pretty good. And then that's kind of hidden behind the face. So now I'm going to wash my brush, and I want this gray that I have down in through here to be not necessarily as gray. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of my gray plus my that gold color. So dark gray plus gold is on my brush right now. So I can have a little bit of extra color in it without it being too bright. And this is just gonna allow me to kind of get this fingertip to just kind of blend in, give it a little bit of a bulbous kind of look, but not too much, just to, you know, allow for that that form on that finger to happen. And if I have any little areas that I want to tweak, and then I will put an extra little highlight on the tops in a minute. Just kind of getting that in through there. That looks good. So now I'm gonna wash my brush, and I'm gonna pick up a little bit of my gold color and just get some extra little highlights on the knuckle areas, maybe in through here. And these are just to accentuate this part of the body is kind of emerging from the darkness from wherever this little guy is coming from. So this is just the gold, and maybe even, I might even pop on a tiny bit of white paint as well on these little knuckles. But while these little knuckle areas are drying, these bright parts that I just put on, I'm going to do those fingernails. So that way that will have a little bit more substance to it. And then if I need to do anything more to these guys, I can certainly do that as well. It's looking good. Let me just bring that around a little bit. There we go. So my fingernails, I'm going to use, what am I going to use? I think I'm going to use I need to use something that's different than what it is on top of, so we can see it a little bit more. So I'm going to use let's go for my cool gray and a little bit of white. So this is that light blue plus white. So I didn't say I was using that, so we're using it now. So I'm just going to put a real faint kind of stripe on the top side of that nail. So something like this will give me that, that vibrant tone to it. And then I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of white and put, oops, that was white with yellow. I didn't mean that. A little bit of white on my brush, and a couple of these have very bright highlights right on the tips. So I'm going to take and put Couple really bright highlights right on the tips. Those two definitely have it. This one's got a little bit of it. And then if I felt that there would be, I could discern a shadow. Let me just get rid of, I see a little bit more of my chalk. I could take just a tiny bit of my dark gray plus a little bit of water on my brush. So dark gray plus a little bit of water, and I could put a little bit of a shadow. So just something kind of underneath that finger, giving myself just an itty bitty bit of a shadow on that wall. That'll make it look nice and believable. And then I am going to put, oops, that was a little bit too much. That looks pretty good. I think I'm going to go in for a little bit of my gold plus white, and just give myself one last pop on these kind of parts right near that fingernail. So gold plus white, and then I would just fiddle. So once I've got everything in place, I definitely, for me, will most likely step back from it and see if there's any additional areas that I feel could benefit from a little more highlight or a little more gray or a little more pop of something, or even a little bit more black. Like maybe I need to pull this, you know, a little bit darker underneath here to make that recede a little bit, or a little bit more burnt sienna to tie that, you know, rusty kind of color into it. So just know you can certainly fiddle with it as much as you feel is necessary. And then we're going to use this same small brush. Are we going to use a small brush? No, we're going to use the number 6 brush for the next step. So once you've got the hands done, you can put this small brush away, take out your number 6 brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish the fur on the head. I'm using my number 6 round brush. The colors I'm going to use are definitely my gold color, my tan, my dark gray, brown, maybe a little bit of black, and that might be it. If I use any other colors, I'll definitely let you know. So I just need to finesse this a little bit more. I want to finish my ear with a little bit more fluff on the top of it. I want to make sure that I can see the edge of my ear. I definitely need more light on the left side of the face to make it look like it's just kind of popping out of this area that it's in. I might even put a little bit more fur down on this, like underneath the neck. So I'm going to be doing a lot of little fiddling stuff. So I think I'm going to try and start with my dark and work my way to the light. And then if I have any additional things I need to or want to do, I'll let you know. So I'm going to start, and I'm not sure if I said what colors I'm using. Black, brown, dark gray, tan, gold, white, and that might be it. Maybe burnt sienna, but I'm not sure about that yet. So I'm starting with a little bit of black on my brush with a touch of water, because I feel like this still needs to go a little bit darker in through here. So I'm just pulling some more darkness in through here to, I definitely want this little eye area to pop out, and I didn't feel like I was getting enough transition in through there. So definitely more darkness will help me do that. And then just a little bit of this darkness up between the ear and the head. So just tapping in these little polka dots of watered down black paint is allowing that ear to kind of have its own identity. And then underneath here, I'm putting a little bit more black paint as well. Again, just to make sure that that area of the face can really be seen, even though it is in the shadows. So that looks good in through there. Anywhere else I feel that I need some darkness, like maybe in through here between the ear and the head. So again, just kind of tapping in some watered down black paint. In through here looks pretty good. It almost appears as if there's a kind of a little burnt sienna type of shadow coming right here. So I'm gonna just might be some kind of reflection of something. So I'm just going to put it on because I see it in the photo. So we just put that on there. And then I got some good darkness underneath this eye, but I feel as though this eye could have a little bit more definition or dark stuff kind of coming in this corner. So I just pulled a little bit more, again, watered down black paint. This side can be lighter because it's on the light side of the face, but if you feel that you can bring any of this, like this feels like it should be brought down just a little bit like that. That looks pretty good. I'll put that light color back on in a minute, but I'm thinking that that looks pretty good. I've got my dark stuff down here, maybe a little bit more dark underneath that little nose. So again, I'm just kind of looking for where I have dark in the painting and trying to make sure that I am as dark as the photo that I'm looking at. So that looks pretty good. A little kind of mark in through there. We've got in through there. That looks good. All right. So now, a couple little darker dots up here. So now I'm gonna put my my little fluff on my ear. So I'm gonna pick up on my dirty brush. I'm just gonna pick up some of that tan and a little bit of water on my brush, and I'm just gonna add, intermingled with this with the black, I'm just gonna add this little kind of fluffy stuff on this ear. I mean, these guys have the cutest little fluff stuff around their ears. So just kind of adding that in there so we can see it. And then I want the edge of the ear. So I'm gonna just tap this in through here. So this is just like the little edge of the ear that we're seeing is emerging from the darkness. I'm picking up, I got this little part here. I'm picking up a little bit of brown on my dirty brush just to get this little edge, because that was still just chalk, and I don't want that to be chalk. So this is looking pretty good. And then I'm going to pick up some of this gold color on this ear and just highlight just by tapping in my gold color around here, and then maybe just tap it up in through here. So what I just did there was I added that edge of the ear so we could see the exterior edge, and then that little hair on top. So that looks good, and I made sure I could see the edge over here. Get rid of my chalk mark. There we go. That looks pretty good. That's cute. So as I move into the face, I'm just going to wash and dry my brush so I don't have too many colors on it. I do see that there's kind of like a dark area at the top of the nose. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of black and brown with a little bit of water on my brush. I probably could have hit this while I was hitting the other dark stuff, but I'm just now seeing it. So I want to make sure that I've got this little kind of black. It almost just looks like a pattern in his fur. So I don't even know if that's entirely necessary to the squirrel world, but this little guy has it, so we're gonna put it on there, and then maybe a little bit up here too. And then I'm gonna wash and dry my brush. I just need to build my way to the light now, so I'm going with my gold and brown right now. So gold and brown, just another layer of fur, and I definitely want to have some in through here. And of course I could be using also my my dark gray, whatever I need to do to build just another kind of layer on here to satisfy my painterly eyes. So I know that I feel it was a little bit too dark in some of these areas, so that's where I am kind of just allowing for a little bit more lightness. You can go with your gold and your gray, your gold and your brown, whatever kind of color combination. You might even want to tap into a bit of burnt sienna if you're feeling like you want to put some of those more rusty tones into your little squirrel, which they definitely have. So you can really play with those kind of tones. I need to definitely lighten up around the nose and the eyes, but I'm just kind of getting this in here so I can satisfy myself with that. And same thing up in through here, just kind of tapping in one more layer in through here just to get that texture that I would really like. That looks good. So now I'm gonna pick up some gold plus white. So gold and white. I definitely have a lot of lightness on this left-hand side, so I want to make sure that I emulate that. So this is, I'm going to go with gold and white, and if I need to tweak it any with darker tones or with more brownish tones, I can certainly do that. But I like to try and give myself just a singular kind of color to work from. So instead of trying to work from 86 different tones of this gold, I'll just say, okay, I'm going to work with this one tone of gold, and I'm going to add white to it, or I'm going to add brown to it, or I'm going to add burnt sienna to it in order to, you know, and you can even do that on the animal itself in order to just kind of tweak those shades or tones of that particular color. He's got some little cute fur right in through here, so I'm just kind of tapping my brush to give myself some texture in through here. And it's, of course, it's darker on this right hand side, so as I'm running out of paint on the left hand side, I can bring the remnants that are on my brush over here on the right, and it'll stay darker because there's hardly any paint on my brush, but I'm still getting that effect. So again, I'm going gold plus some white on my brush. I definitely need a really bright spot right in through here. So this is going to come right in front of that nose part, and then right down here in through here. This is a big light section of this cute little animal's face. So I'm going to make sure that I accomplish that and then just kind of fade it out so it doesn't look too much. Pick up a little bit more gold just to get the area next to it to talk to it well. Oh, it's so cute. So I'm going to do this gold plus white above the eyes too, or around the eyes. Very bright area right in through here. And then just kind of where we had originally made that gold section. Now I'm just kind of enhancing it, making sure it's as bright as I want it, making sure it's taking up or occupying the space that I want it to, like that. And then same thing underneath here. And again, if you felt that you wanted to go into the smaller brush, please feel free to do so. Don't feel that you have to muscle through with the bigger brush. I like using, again, larger brushes. So on this side over here, I'm not going to pick up any more white. I wiped my brush off. I'm just going to go for the gold. I'm going to go for the gold and just make this side a little bit darker, but I still need it to kind of make sense, like it kind of looks like that. So I might add a little bit of brown so it gives me a couple of different tones and maybe goes a little bit lighter on the left hand side. So something like that. I really want this side to look darker because that's what I'm seeing it. So that looks pretty good. He's so cute. A little bit lighter over here. Again, just speaking to this side of the face, I just keep amping it up until it is as light as I feel that it is in the photo. And you know, that's part of my process is I do things. I'm going in for my tan right now. I do things progressively. So especially when I'm working in fur, because if I go too fast with just saying, oh, I want this one color, I can see that color and I want it on that area, I tend to just overpaint. So I need to go slow and just build up to it. So I just picked up some of my tan. This is probably going to be my brightest of my bright up here on the head and through here. Get rid of that little chalk mark. Definitely a lot in this kind of like foreheady area, and this is going to get the forehead to kind of pop out a little bit more. And again, if you do something and you're like, well, that was just too much, just know that you always have that dark gray to revert to, so you can go back to that or incorporate it. Like I can pick up a little bit of the dark gray on my dirty brush as I'm getting up towards this kind of center of the top, and that's going to help me kind of blend that out. I can even use it as I'm coming over towards this right hand side. And if you don't want yours as textured as mine, you could certainly use a different brush stroke where you're just kind of rubbing it as opposed to tapping it. But the tapping is going to give me that textural element that that I'm seeing in the photo. So I'm going a little bit more. I'm going to go gold, brown, and white to get me just a little different pop of color in through here. And I think I'm also going to pick up a tiny bit of burnt sienna. So these are the decisions as I go through. I'm watching that photo. I'm saying, oh, now I can detect just a little hint of that burnt sienna. So maybe I'll just pull a little hint of it in there. And I would just keep kind of tweaking. Oh, he's so cute. I would just kind of keep tweaking to get those values the way that I want. I'm putting a little bit more white up here on this eye. I just feel like I want a little extra up here. And then again, at this point, feel pretty confident in everything that I have on the face. Maybe a little bit extra tan on this left side of the nose. So once you've got it into a place that you're comfortable with, we are going to be using our small brush for the next step. So you can just wash this brush. I'm gonna put a couple more little light things right here. You can put this brush away, wash and dry, or just put this brush away. Take out your small brush and you can get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're gonna do for the next step is we're gonna paint some whiskers. I am using my number 2 round brush. The colors I'm going to use are probably just black and white. If I go into any other colors, I'll let you know. What I'm going to do is I pray a lot when I do whiskers. Just kidding. I'm not really kidding. I cross my fingers, I cross my toes, I load my brush in a distinct way, and then I say a prayer, and then I make a whisker. So I'm going to show you my super accurate process. But I kid. I kid because whiskers are one of those things that some days I have good days, some days I don't have good days. I always love the challenge, and I really like making them because every animal has a different type of whisker. Like these whiskers on this guy are pretty straight and long. Others are really curved and messy. So there's all different kinds of whiskers, but allowing yourself to not get hung up and not be petrified of them. I think that's the school I'm coming from. Like, I just want to have fun doing this, and if I don't do them perfect, I'm okay with that. So I am using a smaller round brush. There's all different kinds of brushes. There's ones that have really long skinny bristles, but I'm going to use this one today, and I'm going to start with black paint with some water in it. So this is going to allow me to have it like an ink consistency. I do recommend, if you haven't done these before, that you might want to practice on something. You can even practice like on the back of the canvas, but I'm getting my paint really thin, and I'm going to make sure that I don't have a lot of paint in my bristles. So if you just mixed the paint with that brush, you can rinse that brush out again and just make sure there's not a lot of paint within those bristles. And then go in for that watered down paint. I like to take my brush and spin it in the paint so my bristles are really pointy. And then I decide where I'm headed with these. So I'm gonna have some coming off this side of the face, and they're gonna shoot kind of down in this direction. They'll have some curve to them, and then I'll have some coming over here, and they're gonna kind of go in an upward direction. I'm gonna start with black, and then once I've got them kind of in place, I can I need more water on my brush. It's not pulling enough, or I need more water in my paint. Once I've got them in the placement that I want, then I can start adding some little highlights with my apparently I can't talk and do whiskers at the same time. I can add some additional marks to them. So let me just kind of get a couple of these. I am using my hand on my canvas to brace myself and to get these to be nice and thin and cross over. Well, as soon as it starts looking like it's dry or skipping, you'll want to add more paint to the equation or more water to your brush. And I do like them to go at different angles, so they tend to, for me, feel like they look more natural when they're coming off at different angles. So that's good for the black ones on that side. Now I'm gonna try and get some of similar length over on this side. So let's see, we've got it about that long. Well, that's pretty long. All right, let's go for it. Starting here, and we're just gonna pull and pray, pull and pray. And again, as soon as it starts getting dry, I reload my brush. And I think the trick is just try not to push too hard. That's why I use my hand as a brace, so that way it prevents me from going too hard. A great thing about this composition is we have a fabulous color as a background for our whisker adventure, which is that gray color. You could always, if something went wrong, just wash your brush, and then you can pick up that tan if you wanted to. Which I'm picking up a little bit of my tan. This one's a little too dark for me, so I can just dull it down with a little bit of that tan, and that'll get it to kind of blend into that. But I'm gonna put a little bit of white on some of these. So water and white. I'm doing the same thin consistency that I did with my black, and it can be dirty white. It doesn't have to be clean white. And then I can take this, so there's some areas that I can't really see because it's on top of a dark background. So I'm going to use this thinned out white paint to allow for these whiskers to be evident in the darker areas. So that's why I often will use two different colors, especially when doing whiskers, not only to use that second color as a help me on one that I might have messed up on, but also to allow me to see those whiskers with the contrast of the dark area or the light area that might be underneath them. And I think that's what happens naturally when you're seeing the whiskers anyways. Some of them are being caught by light, some of them are different colors, some of them can be brown, they can be all different kinds of colors. So you can really, ooh, that was aggressive. Hold on. That one was just too much. I pressed my brush too hard, and I got it before it was dry, so no worries. And then I'm going to go ahead and do this. And you could even do little whisker holes and stuff like that too, but I'm just going to kind of have fun with this. And then once you've got this done, we are going to be using this same brush for the next step. So you can just wash it and dry it. And now I'm having fun making whiskers. Get ready for the next step. All right, so we are on to the final step. This is the final step of every painting, which is to sign it. So I typically sign mine in the bottom left or the bottom right. I'm going to be using my small number 2 round brush. I think I'm going to go bottom left on this one with brown paint. I like to sign mine with my initials, but you of course can sign yours however you want. You can make up a fun symbol. You can sign it with your full name. People sign it on the back. You can incorporate a date. You could really have a lot of fun with how you want to identify your work. And that can be your special way of saying this is just my painting. And that is going to conclude this painting. I hope you enjoyed the process. I hope you painted yourself an adorable, hungry little animal, and I look forward to painting and sipping with you again sometime.